Hello, and welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Zoe Watkins, and today's topic is leadership. I am a senior documentary filmmaking major at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. My goal is to become a videographer for ESPN. With that, I want to be able to take the stories of those athletes that are the underdogs, those that came from nothing and are something now, those that have to work hard and those that have to struggle. Just like we're having a struggle now in these trying times of a pandemic, in these trying times of, are we going to school? Are we not going to school? Where are internships coming from? Me personally, I had internships drop because of the pandemic. You know what I had to do? I had to grind, I had to use my connections, and I had to just continue working hard. I had to remember where I wanted to go and what my dreams and aspirations are. That is why Coach's Corner is so important to me and to others. Leadership is so important during these trying times because our leaders are able to give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on things that they've experienced in life, and they're able to give us the upper hand. So it is my pleasure to introduce the host, Fran Ferchilla, as he continues the conversation on leadership.
Welcome to Coach's Corner, powered by fieldX. I am Fran Ferchilla from ESPN, and it's a great day we're going to have because we have a special guest, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Arians, who has had a long and storied football career. And just to give you a background, Bruce was an outstanding athlete growing up in central Pennsylvania. He was an outstanding quarterback as well at Virginia Tech back in the wishbone days, which a lot of you youngsters and our fieldX students may not know what the wishbone offense was. But go ahead and look it up on Google, and you'll learn a little bit about that. But after a terrific career as a college assistant coach and head coach, he was a head coach at Temple University, but he also had the great pleasure of coaching at his alma mater and then at Alabama for one of the legendary football coaches in the history of college football, Bear Bryant. Off to the NFL with various stops in places like Kansas City and Pittsburgh, Indianapolis Colts. And really, I think, although he was a career assistant in many ways, he was very well respected as an assistant coach. But as a head coach, it started uniquely because in 2012, he became the interim head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, replacing Chuck Pagano, who had a courageous battle with cancer and we're happy to say has to this point beaten it. But Bruce was the interim coach and the only interim coach in NFL history to win Coach of the Year award as he guided the Indianapolis Colts to a 9-3 record. He then went to the Arizona Cardinals, where he had great success there as a head coach as well. And most currently, he begins his second season as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they should be a fun team to watch this year with a terrific group of players, including Hall of Famer Tom Brady. So it's our pleasure at this point to bring in to our Coach's Corner, Coach Bruce Arians. Coach, it's a pleasure to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being part of our fieldX Coach's Corner.
You bet, Fran. It's my pleasure. You bet.
Hey, this is kind of a cliche question, but I think it kind of fits today because we're talking about leadership. Given your background in coaching all these years and dealing with young men, what would be your definition of leadership?
Well, I think it comes in so many ways and so many forms and fashion. Some guys are very vocal. Other guys are very knowledgeable. A pat on the back is as good as hollering at somebody. You know, the one lesson I learned from Coach Bryant was that the last thing he told me was hug him hard and hug them later. And I've kind of lived by that philosophy as a coach. If it's not perfect, we're going to correct it. Don't take it personal. It's just your football we're talking about. And then find that guy later on and make sure you give him a hug and in the locker room after practice after you got on his ass pretty good.
Well, segueing, you've been described by many players, many of your ex-players, as very authentic. When we talk about a leader, whether it's on a field or in the classroom or in the business world, what do you think? What do you think they meant when they said Bruce Arians is authentic?
Well, I think what you see is what you get. Like I told him, my door is always open. You might not get the answer you want to hear, but you're going to get what I think is the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard. But sugarcoat it, tell them the way it is. And honesty is always the best the best way to handle guys. I think when you start sugarcoating things and BSing them a little bit, they all know it. They all know it. They see right through it. So to me, it's just about honesty and doing it right.
Given, Coach, your long background in coaching, how have you grown as a leader? Think back to your younger days, head coach at Temple, then coming into the NFL. How does one grow as a leader?
I think experiences. You know, you're gonna have so many different experiences, good and bad. I think when I was 30 years old and became the head coach at Temple, I thought I knew more than I know now, and I never learned the word delegate when I was there. I had to do everything myself. Put me in the hospital after about 5 years, and then I started learning how to delegate a little bit better. And but yeah, I think as far as leadership, I think some people are born with it. Other people, it grows into them through a certain circumstance where there's a defining moment where especially young people grow up and they take charge of themselves. You can't take charge of others until you take care of yourself.
You know, when we talk about fieldX, we're always talking about power skills. For the young people that are going to be watching and listening to this show, what are some of the power skills you rely on as a coach and a leader?
Number one is listen. You know, listen to what's being said. Don't prejudge. Listen to what's being said. Every circumstance is an individual circumstance. You cannot treat them all the same. I wouldn't treat a circumstance with Tom Brady the way I would with a rookie defensive end. You know, so each and every one's different. But again, we have 3 words that we live by here: trust, loyalty, and respect. We don't have any rules. Those 3 words kind of cover it all.
They kind of fit in every aspect of life, I would think, including the world that some of our students are going to go into.
There's no doubt. You know, trust. Again, trust starts with looking in the mirror. If you can't trust the person in the mirror, you surely can't trust anybody else. And loyalty is whatever cause you're belonging to, is being loyal to that cause, and your decisions that you make on a daily basis have to be towards that ultimate goal. And then respect covers a lot of things. But for us, mostly we respect the process of going to work every day and getting the day's job done. We can't play Sunday's game on Tuesday. We can only get Tuesday's work done on Tuesday. And respect that process of the daily grind throughout a season.
One of the things I remember about you talking about in your book is the idea of balancing your work and your family and away from the football field or the office or the classroom. What's the importance of balancing your career with your family, and where did that come from?
Well, it really started when I was assistant coach, and we spent so many useless hours in the office. I lost a lot of my children's 8 to 14-year-old development because I was never home. It was a waste of time. And I swore if I ever got to be a head coach that there are plenty of hours in the day to get your work done. You know, if your daughter's in a recital, go see it and then come back to the office or come early the next morning. My coaches know I will fire them if they miss one of their children's event over an hour or 2 in the office because there's plenty of time to get the work done.
How would you let's amplify on that, because so many of our fieldX kids are going to be starting in the real world, the work world, and they're going to want to grind every day. So what would your advice be to them about the work that has to go into being successful, but balancing it with the things that we just talked about, you know, away from the field or the office?
Yeah, I would think it has to be a healthy mindset. You can't do a really good job if you don't have a healthy mind. And to me, if you're grinding 17 hours and then trying to sleep for 5 and then get that extra hour wherever, you're not going to be a rounded enough person. You're not going to be healthy enough to do your job. Just do your job as best you can and leave some time for you and your family.
One of the things about leadership, in your position, being a head football coach in the NFL, is things don't always go swimmingly. You hit bumps in the road every season, whether it's injuries, losses. Your advice to young people are field Xers when it comes to handling adversity.
Yeah, it's going to come every single day. Everything's not going to go right, especially in these times. We're testing every day. You never know who's going to be available, but it's the same thing. Just preparation for those moments. We do a lot of what we call mock situations that are like, there's no way you can win the game. Well, there's a way. You got the ball on the 25-yard line, 28 seconds left, and you have two timeouts. How are you going to win the game? And we go through that every day. We put ourselves in those scenarios every day. So I think, not being blind to them, embrace them, and move on.
What? How have you? The Arians Family Foundation, which you started, obviously benefiting CASA. Explain what CASA is first of all, and then I want to ask you about how you lead. How do you lead in an environment that's away from the football field like that?
Yeah, CASA is court-appointed special advocates. It's the kid's voice for a child. It's in this court system, whether it would be neglect or abuse, foster care system. They're the positive voice for that child. I watched my wife do that job for 18 years and how she saved them one at a time. And football's nothing compared to what she was doing. Football's a game. And she was changing lives for the better for everybody. So if I ever got a platform, I wanted to make sure that we raised enough awareness and money to support her cause. And because to me, she's a real hero. And anybody that is a guardian ad litem or CASA, speaking up for children who are in a situation through no fault of their own, to me, they're heroes.
How would you advise? That reminds me. How would you advise our field Xers to look at the big picture in their life and not just worry about work and success and becoming a leader, but also giving back away from their business environment, coaching environment, the way you have with your foundation? What fulfills you about that? Well, obviously you've said it because you talked about your wife's work, but what's the fulfillment that you guys get out of being a part of something like your foundation, helping young people?
Yeah, just anything that helps children, I'm all in. And, whether it's boys and girls clubs, anything has to do with helping kids grow up, because I needed that help as a kid. My parents were working in factories. I had somewhere to go. Somebody was named Coach. I didn't know there was somebody's dad giving up his time, but there was somebody named Coach that I always looked up to. And, but yeah, I think find something you're passionate about and don't be afraid to give back. Especially in our situation at CASA, it doesn't take that much of your time. It takes a little bit of training. And the people, we have spoken at so many events, and I've seen business leaders, politicians, TV personalities get involved. And I told them, you'll get more out of it than the child. And they've all told me, thank you for talking me into this. It's been the greatest thing I've ever done.
That's great. That's great. I want to go back to your days in Central PA. You obviously have been in coaching your whole career. And you mentioned Coach Bryant, but before that, growing up in, I guess it was York County, right? Were you in York? Growing up in York County, I know it's a sport. Being an East Coast guy, I know Central Pennsylvania is a hotbed of sports. Football, basketball, baseball. Where in your background as a youngster did you think, I might want to coach, or I might want to lead? Does it go back that far that you said, man, I think I could do this. I think I could get a bunch of guys and they'll listen to me?
Yeah, I think very early in my playing career in high school, I thought coaches were rich. The house wasn't connected to anybody else's downtown. And, so I thought school teachers were rich, and I said, well, I want to be a coach and a teacher, and pursued that goal at Virginia Tech, and ended up staying as a graduate assistant, and then started a college career rather. But I actually applied for 2 high school jobs. Thank God I didn't get them. I would have taken him.
That's great. That's great. Hey, we're gonna intermittently ask some questions. Some of our field extras have questions for you. So, this first one comes from Mac Johnson. He's a student athlete at Auburn University, master's in finance. He asks, in an age where my generation is used to instant gratification, what advice would you give to the next generation regarding patience and executing on a plan rather than expecting overnight success?
Yeah, I think, especially in sports, there's an amount of time that has to be given to where you climb that ladder. You're just not going to walk into the NFL as coaches. I get 100 letters. I want to coach in the NFL. Sure, you do. Everybody does, but you got to work your way through it. Buying those experiences, getting that time with your hands on people all the time, and then just continue to grow. I think, again, I'll go back to Coach Brian. He said at one of the high school coaching clinics, you got a job. If it's not your dream job, do the best of your ability and keep looking for the next one until you find that dream job, and then you work your tail off to make sure you don't lose it.
And he came home with Alabama. That was his dream job when he left Texas A&M. How do you, now in an NFL locker room, how does a leader train leaders? How do you train leaders? How do you develop leadership in your team?
I lean heavily on my veteran players. I grill them all the time about, should we practice hard? Should we practice soft? How you guys feeling? Give me the pulse of the locker room. So I think spreading it helps. And, there's always that one guy in the locker room that he's kind of the Antichrist. Make him a leader too, because you want to hear from all those guys too. Make him stand up in front of you, and we don't allow bitching, but voice your concerns.
That's cool. That's cool. So the guy that's off the reservation a little bit, you kind of bring him back into the fold and
make him a leader.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Here's another question, Coach, from one of our field experts, Max Abramson from Emory University, International Studies. He says, you are famous for your post-game socializing with players and staff. I've read that in the book too, by the way, to create a personal connection. In this time where it's really difficult to safely be social, how are you going to continue to be connected to your players and staff? And how have you been through this last 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, it's very much, it's a lot harder. Usually they knew where my car was in the parking lot after the game. They want to stop a beer, bring their mom, dad, or aunts and uncle, whoever was at the game, come by and meet them and socialize on a totally different level than player coach and just person to person. Those times are harder now. Really, I still haven't figured out how we're going to do it this year after a ball game, but the coaches all know where to go. There's a bar in my backyard, and it's safe there.
Got it. You'll spread out.
Oh, yeah.
With a few cold ones.
Oh, of course.
After a big win.
or a hard practice.
Hey, I got it. That sounds great. Hey, I want to go back. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm curious, and I think this would be a great lesson for our field Xers. You were a head coach at Temple. You got some experience there, and then you go to the NFL and have great success with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Super Bowl champions with Bill Cowher. And then you go to Indianapolis with your good friend Chuck Pagano, and he gets ill, comes down with the battling cancer. You had already been a head coach, but when you're thrust into that situation in the middle of a season, what do you pull from in terms of, okay, I got 60 guys in this locker room, staff, coaches, players. I got to lead these guys under the most unique of circumstances. Where does that leadership come out of you in that time?
Yeah, that was a very, very difficult one. I still, that's a storybook season. Jim Irsay basically handed me over the reins. I never called myself head coach. We always had Chuck's locker. No one sat in the seat on the bus. We had a head coach. I was going to decide if we went for it on fourth down or whatever decision had to be in the ball game. I don't give a lot of speeches, so The biggest thing for me was I did learn to delegate. First staff meeting, Greg Minuski, all the guys, you do your job. All right, you just do your job, and I'll have the speech on Saturday night, and I'll decide whether we're going to go for it or not, or go for two, and let's just go. And don't try to be something different because all of a sudden your title's a little bit different. Just be you. We had a rookie quarterback that was amazing, and about 6 other rookies who started on offense. And I think we had 7 come from behind wins, and it was 9 wins. And so it's kind of easy when you got a quarterback like that. You're never out of the game. Defense knows we're never out of the game. You just keep it close. This kid's going to go win it. And he did it time and time again. And for me, it was just taking on a role of number 2, never number 1, number 2, and be myself. I mean, my Saturday night speech might last 3 minutes. Chuck would be 30 minutes.
Right.
It was Chuck, So it's just a matter of me being me and the players respecting each other and getting a job done. And I always believed that professional athletes play for a cause, and the cause was Chuck. You can get great things accomplished. Too many teams don't have a cause. They don't have a reason. You say you want to win a championship, but that's not real reason. When it's keeping the light on for somebody, that's a special thing.
Well, the coolest thing about that season I remember is you did leave the light in Chuck's office on the whole time, right?
Yes.
Like he was in there working. And it's a great lesson, I think, Coach, because a lot of our field Xers are going to be thrust into positions of leadership at an unexpected time in their careers, like you did. And what would be the one crystallizing piece of advice from that one experience that you had that season?
Be yourself and don't be afraid to delegate. Let people do their jobs. And when there's time to lead. You don't have to lead all the time.
That's cool. That's great. Speaking of leading, you've had some great quarterbacks in your career, and you've obviously have been a great mentor to them, as people know. What are some of the defining characteristics of a great NFL quarterback when it comes to leadership? What is it about them that people will just rally behind them and do whatever they can to help their cause?
Yeah, I think all the great ones have the same thing. I kind of call it grit. They're tough. They're smart. They know what they're doing. When they call a play, it's going to work. When they urge you on, you're going to listen to the message. You're not going to take it personally. And whether it's Peyton, Ben, Tim Couch was as tough as I ever had, and Carson, Andrew Luck as a young player, they all had the same qualities. They're great players, but they followed them because they had a will to win that was unlike anything else.
You've had quarterbacks at different stages. Now you're going to have one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, and Tom Brady. I know that'll be fun. But as you look back, before we talk about Tom, maybe, as you look back at all those different quarterbacks, how much of your own input, how much did any of them have to become better leaders than they already were, and what could you do to help, facilitate that?
I think with Andrew and Ben, they were young, and it was a matter of making them comfortable so they could do their job. And for Ben, I got him to think his 3rd year, hey, let's rewrite the playbook together. Give him ownership.
Got it.
Of the offense. And giving him ownership gave him respect in the locker room. And he put in the time, and he did great things. I even let him call plays a lot of times. Peyton was already there, but he went through a 3-13 season that he had some really, really tough times, and then bounced back to 13-3. So each guy is so different. Off the field, but on the field, they're all piranhas for information, and they can't process it. They can't be great. So all of them can process information very quickly.
That reminds me, because I'm into this as a former coach, as someone studied coaches. I got to think that Tom Brady has a growth mindset. It seems to me like he's not, he's never satisfied. How are you going to feed that growth mindset on a daily basis?
Yeah, for us, it's, you have ideas. We have an offense. These 22 guys, they kind of know it. I can't ask them to learn yours because they're not as smart as you are. You learn ours, and then we'll collaborate and mingle together both so that you're comfortable and they're comfortable, and we can play as fast and as physical as possible.
When these Gen Xers become leaders, how do they? Because it reminds me of what you just were talking about. When they become leaders, how do they lead and also allow for individuality in their office, like you have?
Yeah, I think again, you identify young stars. Everybody in your office isn't great, but there might be one great one, and it's your job to nurture and make that person grow to become great. Not at the expense of your job, but to get to my job, I think, is to make more head coaches. Now they might not all get an opportunity, but I'm creating a situation and a culture where 6 or 7 guys on my staff should be head coaches, and I'm pushing them towards that goal.
And so, a lot of responsibility. I think you said it earlier. You kind of sit back and allow them to do their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you help them when they do make mistakes, and you've given them ownership of a position or a coordinator? How do you hold their feet to the fire?
It's all about accountability. If you put in the time and you tried something and it didn't work, that's called learning process. You're not going to, everything's not going to work. You're going to fail every now and then. And, you could have the defense coordinator, you can design the greatest blitz in the world, and all of a sudden they had max protection called in, didn't work on that play. Don't be afraid not to call it again. And, but you want to see that personal growth in each and every one of them. So the failure part is when they need you the most.
Given that these our field Xers are really in the same age range as many of your players in their 20s, what are some pieces of advice that you would give to them as they start out their careers? You've given them a great tutorial already on leadership, but as they start their careers, or just like when you get a rookie come to you with enormous talent, but he's not polished yet, what would be some of the advice you'd give to a youngster graduating from Georgia Tech or from Virginia Tech? I got to throw that in, your alma mater, or NYU, about starting their career and getting off to a good start in the business world?
Yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to dive in. And that might not be the job you want. It might be the only one you can get. And then do a hell of a job and keep looking until that other one comes, and then keep looking and then climb that ladder. I mean, that ain't going to be easy. I got a granddaughter who's 26 and in the social media business, and it's tough. There's a lot of people out there qualified. You might not be making a lot of money, but you're making money, and you can't get another opportunity if you go somewhere else.
That's great. That's great stuff. You've had Field Xers as part of your Arians Family Foundation events. You've given them a chance to really participate and gain experience. What's that been like for them and for you, and getting that kind of help?
No, it's great. I mean, CMPR is just such a great company. Steve Webster and his crew, and all those kids come every year, and I'm just blessed that they give up their time, and we do try to have as much fun as possible. And but they're the ones that are making sure everything goes right, and it's a great learning experience for them, and we try to make sure they're treated as right as possible.
That's great stuff, Coach. I've studied you from afar. I know how good you are at what you do. Your leadership skills speak for themselves. Obviously, I think the Field Xers who watch this are going to get a lot out of that. The other thing I like about you is you're not afraid to have fun.
Life's too short, brother. You got to have fun.
Well, hey, best of luck this year. We hope everything gets off to a good start with you, the NFL, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And your expertise in this area of leadership this morning has been just absolutely, I think, a wealth of information for our Field Xers. I thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Fran. Appreciate the invitation.